That's true. Okay, well, it's 12:15. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Colonel Rodney Moore, the Ops Director, and I'm going to do the Ops briefing today. A couple things I want to mention as we start is the session is being recorded. Please mute your microphone. If you have a question, just use the chat or raise your hand, and we'll try to get to you immediately. And I'll ask Colonel McCroskey and Colonel Judy to kind of monitor that chat so that we can try to answer people's questions or comments as we go along. We have plenty of time. So with that, I'll get started. And this is the off seminar for the virtual wing conference. And I want to start out by talking about our SAR missions for the year. In October last year, we had a ground team located in ELT at Clarksburg Airport, and personnel from Clarksburg, Morgantown, and Charleston participated in that. On April 21st, we had a missing person search at Wheeling. We dispatched an aircraft out of Clarksburg to help with that. The person was located on the ground by EMS and law enforcement personnel, and we were overhead, so we got credit for a find and a save for that mission. On June 21st, a ground team from Clarksburg located in ELT at the Fairmont State facility at Clarksburg Airport. Find awarded for that one. That was really an interesting ELT mission in that it was an aircraft that had flown into Clarksburg and been decommissioned to be used for maintenance training at the Fairmont State Pierpont maintenance school. And on FlightAware, it showed it coming in there to Clarksburg like in October of 2019, and it never left. And I said, well, I wonder what happened there. Well, that's what happened. The airplane was flowing in and grounded for maintenance personnel to train on it. And somebody forgot to take the battery out of the ELT, and it went off. And we just happened to have a member who works there, Major Dawson, so we got it taken care of. But nobody was injured, nobody hurt, so that wasn't a problem. And just this October, we had an extensive ground search for a missing person in the Monongahela National Forest near Parsons, West Virginia. And we had about 30 personnel involved in that for a couple of days, both doing air sorties and ground searches. And unfortunately, that person was not located. That's a pretty puzzling one. He was a 64-year-old male that went into the woods to hunt ginseng and didn't come out. And his vehicle was right there, so they had a good last known position. But we, along with other EMS and volunteer fire departments, did a lot of searching for him, but didn't turn up anything. So we always need to talk about numbers, so let's get that over with. In fiscal year 2021, we flew 166 hours average per aircraft, and just coincidentally, that was exactly the same as last year. Wing rankings this year is 23rd in the country, but last in the region. To compare that, the wing rankings last year, we were 7th in the country and 3rd in the MAR with the same flight hours, except we had an extra airplane for a few months, and it wound up we had 6.4 hours, or 6.4 aircraft rather, for a while. But I think what that demonstrates is that while we were pretty consistent, it looks like a lot of the other wings in the country started flying more in 21. So we just need to redouble our efforts a little bit this coming year. Here's the aircraft utilization. You can just take a look at that. As I said, we did have 7 airplanes for about 3 months because we were doing some training in our old round dial 172 for a couple pilots. And then it was transferred to National and sold. So we're back to 6 aircraft. But I'll point out that that 4 of the airplanes met the hours requirement. 648 Charlie Papa, of course, is the new airplane. We didn't get it until the end of March, so it flew 100 hours in 6 months, which is what our goal would be. It's a little over it. Whoops. Interesting statistic here is that in 2020, the VFR pilots and CAP flew about 12 hours a year. So the average flight time for our pilots was 26.7 hours. It's just that some of the other wings have more pilots per airplane than we do. But Colonel McCroskey won the contest. He flew 171.9 hours. Your bonus check will be in the mail sometime. And Lieutenant Colonel Judy was second with 127.9 hours. So congratulations to both of you. Some more metrics. Right now we've got 30 VFR pilots, 28 transport mission pilots. So almost everybody that's a VFR pilot is at least transport mission qualified in that ES specialty. 18 mission pilots and 14 airborne photographers, down from 24 last year. So that shows how, not being able to conduct training exercises hurts aircrew. But just to note, we had 33 VFR pilots until the end of September. And of course, that was kind of a drop dead time when a lot of people were taking Form 5s last year, and we had 2 or 3 people drop off because of that. So we should be able to get them back up. And actually, there's 4 more mission pilots that are expired that we can, they just need to do a Form 5, and we'll have them back up. So hopefully we're going to get pretty close to our goals once we do that. So some of you get this report, but I thought I'd put it on there just to show you that National Headquarters is really emphasizing getting back to those pilot goals. And if you're green, that means you're between 80 and 90% of goal, which we are. We were blue between 90 and 100, and when those pilots dropped off, we dropped down just a little bit. But this report comes out from NHQ every week. And mission pilots, we were in the green. We dropped back to yellow because of those pilots that dropped off at the end of September, but hopefully we'll get them back up. But you can see there's a lot of people, wings around the country, that are in the red and even purple. So they really are down there and need to get their mission pilots back. So I want to talk a couple minutes about new pilots that we have. And Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Camden Link from Potomac Highlands earned his private pilot license this year. He was the recipient of a wing scholarship for 15 hours, and Major Jerry Wiedemeyer was his primary instructor. He soloed him. He went on to a private FBO, got his private, and then he completed a CAP Form 70-5, and he's now a qualified CAP pilot and has a high performance checkoff, and he's 17. And I think that's the youngest pilot that we've ever had. He certainly brought down the median age a little bit. And then next, Cadet Second Lieutenant Jacob Lee earned his private pilot license through the Air Force Junior ROTC Flight Scholarship. That's a really great program. He's a CAP cadet, but also a Junior ROTC cadet, and he completed his training during the summer of 2021 at the Fairmont State Aviation School at Clarksburg, and I think they did it in like about 5 weeks. And I think there were 6 or 7 cadets that actually took check rides and became private pilots. So that was quite an accomplishment.
Rod, Sam Brown from Morgantown is a teacher for that, and he said it's 6 weeks, and everybody took a check ride, but I think only 7 or 8 passed, is what he said.
Well, I thought they only had 7 or 8 people in it. Do you know how many
Oh,
people
no. They had 12 or 15, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, certainly good program all the way around for the ROTC cadets and Fairmont State, because they got a lot of business.
And supposedly, next year, Civil Air Patrol cadets are going to be able to participate. So I'm trying to get the information so that our cadets can get in there and hopefully grab one of them slots.
Yeah, well, that would be good, because I mean, we certainly need young pilots, that's for sure. And that was a great program. I think they stayed up at Fairmont State in the dorms, and they just bust them down there every day to it. So it was an in residence, pretty intensive training um, situation. So here's Cadet Link on his first landing as a solo pilot, and he actually did 3 takeoffs and landings, full stops, and then taxiing back at Petersburg. He did actually have somebody in the pattern with him while he was doing it. That he was announcing he was a student pilot, first solo, and this guy was writing the pattern with him, in front of him, behind him, and everything else. But he did fine. And like I say, now he's already got a 182 sign off and is a qualified CAP pilot. And there he is with Major Wiedemeyer. That was in 6607 Delta, which was, of course, we've now sold. And some additional cadet training that we did was Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Caden Bell from Beckley soloed at the Mar Flight Academy at Camden, South Carolina. I was his primary instructor for that. And Sandra Feliciano and I also soloed our other 3 students as well. We soloed, we had 12 airplanes, 12 instructors, and 24 students, and 22 of them soloed. That's a record. I've been going to the flight academies for over 10 years, and that's the most we've ever soloed. One of the cadets did not have a medical, so he could not solo, and the other one didn't want to. I guess that cadet just came. So, hey, Rich, I was getting a low internet signal. Are you still hearing me okay?
Yeah, we're hearing you fine, Rod. Go ahead.
Okay. But that's always a good experience going to the flight academy. It's a very intense, very well run situation. There's a lot of airplanes buzzing around in the pattern. I know one day I think there was 4 or 5 in the pattern and 3 coming in when I was coming into land. So, but it was safe and worked out well. And there's Caden landing. That was a North Carolina airplane. And you'll notice his technique, the master on the ground, the nose wheels off the ground. I think he got an excellent flight instructor. And that was a North Carolina airplane, as I said. And it had a G500 in it, which I'd never flown before. So that was kind of interesting as well. I'll talk about the glider for a minute. That's our Blanick. Oops. And so here's what we did this year. We did 110 total sorties in fiscal year 2021. 90 of those were cadet orientation flights. So that's great. That's really the primary purpose for the gliders is to get the cadets up. So thanks to Paul, he flew all 110 sorties. And we're going to fly next weekend, and then we're going to fly in November. And then after shutting down for the winter, we'll resume operations in March. That is correct, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And we just didn't see much sense in trying to fly in December, January, and February because it's usually just too cold or weather's not good, and there's so much planning and in logistics and getting everybody there. That we'll just start back in March. And of course, we'll be posting the weekend schedule. And so the squadrons need to make reservations as early as possible because it's on a first come, first served basis. And about as we can fly 12 or cadets probably in a weekend if we're fortunate. And of course, each cadet is eligible for 5 glider orientation flights. And before I go to maintenance, Paul, I got a question in the cadet seminar on ops this morning about I think one of our cadets went to the Southeast Glider Academy, and so she's got enough flights now that she could solo. And I said, well, first thing we got to do is get some instructors.
Yeah.
Then we might be able to do something like that.
Right. Yeah. We don't have any CFIGs right now that are active. So.
Yeah. And, but I was talking to Debbie about that. She mentioned it and she said, well, she didn't get the solo at the academy because the weather got bad. And I don't know if she's been to another one or not, but unless they've changed the rules, you can't solo a glider at your first flight academy. But I'll have to check on that. But in any event, she could now, if she flew with us, if we can get a CFIG, she could solo.
Right. Was she flying?
But anyhow,
flying a Blahnik is what she was flying. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to check with her about that.
I saw the picture of her. It looked like it was a Blahnik to me when I saw the picture of it. So that would definitely accelerate the process if that's what she was training in. So.
Yeah, because if she was flying in a T-33, it would take her a while to transition. The Sikorsky or the Schweitzer rather, is kind of like a truck compared to the Blahnik. It's very forgiving. Okay, let's talk for a couple minutes about maintenance. Just remind everybody that you do need to contact the wing maintenance officer before you schedule maintenance. And the maintenance officer is the primary contact with maintenance facilities. And when you pick up an airplane, the PIC is responsible for determining that the logs are properly completed when picking up the airplane. In other words, you want to make sure it's airworthy, it's been signed off for whatever the discrepancy was, or the maintenance item, if it's routine maintenance like 100-hour or whatever. And in our supplement, we do require that when aircraft maintenance status changes, that those people are notified there. And also, the commanders and the ops officers, aircraft maintenance officers at the squadrons need to make sure that AMRAD is updated. We've had a couple times where that lagged a little bit, and anybody can go in and look at that, see what the maintenance status is. So it's important that it's updated and correct. I'll mention that the new maintenance reg just came out. It's the CFP Regulation 130-2 on the 4th of October. And there are 2 new maintenance pamphlets. The 130-3 is the AMO guide, and the 130-2 is aircraft management. So the 130-3 is brand new, and everybody should take a look at that because it provides a lot of really useful information on what the AMO needs to do. I'll mention too that the regulations change a couple things and add things. All aircraft logbooks must now be stored in a fireproof and waterproof storage box and not kept in the aircraft. So we're going to have to decide what kind of a storage container that we want. and where we suggest that the squadrons store them. I mean, obviously in a safe and secure location, but not in the airplane. And of course, then we're going to have to remember that when the airplane goes someplace for maintenance, those logbooks are going to have to be taken out of storage and put in the airplane so that the shop can do the logbook entries. So we'll get some guidance out about that. I'm going to check and see if National is going to require any specifications for what those storage boxes, what specifications they have to meet. I mean, for example, how long do they have to withstand a specific temperature, et cetera. So, but anyhow, that's coming. And
I would think National should provide them if they're mandating them. They should provide it from national headquarters so it's standardized across all fleet. But that's my 2 cents.
Well, I agree 100%. We're going to make that inquiry. I'm going to have Eric talk to the maintenance officer, talk to NHQ about that, just to see. I don't know. We'll see what they say. But that would be good if they would provide them. The 130-3 pamphlet also requires a hangar risk assessment / mitigation plan. So I've asked Lieutenant Colonel Eric Judy, to work on that along with the safety officer, Captain Corey Stevens, to develop a template for it so that we can be somewhat standardized in the wing about what it's going to say, but that has to be actually posted in the hangar. We've fortunately not had any big issues with any damaged airplanes in and out of hangars, but we do want to be real vigilant about that. And as I say, that's a requirement that we're going to develop. It's called the Hangar Risk Assessment / Mitigation Plan. And since Colonel McCroskey and I handle a lot of the E108s, we always want to say a couple things about use of the AFAM card. It's only for AFAM sorties, like actual SAR training missions, cadet orientation flights, maintenance, proficiency. If it's got an A number or a T number, it's an AFAM. There is a requirement that you enter information and close the sortie as soon as possible after completion of the flight. It's within 24 hours. And the receipt is to be uploaded within 72 hours. And make sure that the date is correct, the receipts are legible, and when you scan them or take a picture of them or whatever, make sure that you can read them. And that means that after you upload the receipt, you ought to click on it and make sure it's went in there properly. And then the briefs and debriefs must contain adequate information so that there is a story on what you actually did on that sortie.
One thing to add too is if for some reason you can't refuel the plane the same day, or if there's some kind of reason something's other than normal with that sortie, in that debrief section in the summary, make sure you write a note why. FBO was closed upon arrival, fuel wasn't available, or something. So when we go in, or the auditors with Cap USAF come in, they can know why the dates don't line up with when you got the fuel and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Paul. We are doing better as far as air crews go. We ground teams. I think we need some more training.
And that needs to be mandatory. Ground pounders 1 and 2. Any adults that drive vehicles need to go through a special session just on how to fill out a ground sortie, how to close it out. And what the receipt needs to be on it, not the ending mileage on your your odometer, but it's supposed to be the total miles driven. So you need to be calculating, putting that up on the receipt. I've been dealing with that this week with that latest mission we did.
Right. Yeah, and it really does increase our workload in reviewing and generating the E108s if the information is incorrect, because we've got to stop it right there and get it corrected, because if you go ahead and approve it, somebody is going to say something later about it. So we're very careful about how we review all of those sorties to make sure that it's as correct as we can make it when it's approved. Okay, I don't know if Colonel Davis is on here or not, but the standing bow officer reviews flight releases. It must be verbally released prior to the flight, and it can't be just a text. It's got to be voice communications, either via phone or radio. And then it's got to be released in Wimmers within 24 hours, or we start getting all the notification emails that it wasn't released. And we're doing well with that too, but we just always need to make sure, that it gets done. Uh, and it actually is, the reg says within 24 hours, and that's kind of a glitch in their system, because say you release a flight at 6 o'clock in the evening at 1800, at 2400 Z, the thing pops up that it's not released. If you haven't went in there and released it, even though you've actually got 24 hours to do it. And we've had a couple cases where that occurred, and it was released within the 24 hours and met the regulations. But then, on a CI, that'll pop up as a discrepancy. So what you need to do in that case is document when it was released. Make a screenshot of the release and just put it in the sortie file, so that if anybody says anything about it, you can say, well, it was actually released within the 24 hours. I'll talk just a minute about the pilot onboarding and return to flight mission, which has been very useful for us. It's a funded AFAM. It's available for new CAP pilots and those returning to flight. We had 11 pilots actually fly those sorties in 2021, and 6 are now CAP VFR pilots. So it's been successful. We had 23 VFR pilots on the 1st of January of 21, and that's when they, if you go back to the track looked at earlier, that was the baseline when we started. And we had back in November 34 VFR pilots, so that's our goal. That's how that was set. So as I mentioned earlier, we got 30 VFR pilots right now, and we lost 3 at the beginning of October because they didn't get check rides completed. And with those artificial deadlines that were set last year, where they extended everybody's qualifications to the 30th of September, it put a pretty big strain on the system to try to get everybody's check rides completed. I think there were 14 check rides done in September, and I did 7 of them. So when we get those 3 people back up, we'll be in pretty good shape. And we got some more people in the pipeline as well. And mission pilots, we've got, as I said, 4 more that we need to get check rides done for. So we'll be back up in the green or the blue then on the map, which is important. And that you talk a lot about statistics and meeting goals and things like that, but it's important because of operational readiness. I mean, we just never know when we're going to have a SAR mission, as well, like last weekend. And so the more people that we have qualified, the more resources we have, the better, because I mean, obviously, not everybody in CAP in West Virginia is going to be available at any given day or time. So that's why we've really focused a lot on getting people back, and then further, just to get our hours up, to have the pilots available to fly the missions. Safety, we had a year, so let's keep up the good work. And I always say that ORM works. So we always need to be, identifying risk and then mitigating them. That hangar risk assessment plan is one thing that falls into that area. And I want to lastly talk about the Distinguished Aviator Award. If you looked at the general session at the end, Major Coulter was listed as receiving that award. That just came through, and he could not be with us today. He's actually out of town, but I want to just read the citation for it. I think everybody's aware that he had an engine failure and got the airplane back to the airport unharmed. So here's the citation. It says, Major Robert W. Coulter, CAP, distinguished himself by display of conspicuous aviator skills during an in-flight engine emergency near Parkersburg, West Virginia on 18 July 2021, resulting in the successful return and recovery of a CAP aircraft without incident. On 18 July 2021, Major Coulter flew sortie A0226, mission 21A3403. The purpose of the sortie was to relocate Cessna 182 November 9378 X-ray from the Mid-Ohio Valley Airport to Camp Dawson, 3G5, to conduct cadet orientation flights at the West Virginia Wing Cadet Encampment. Following normal pre-flight and pre-takeoff checks, he departed the Parkersburg Airport direct to Camp Dawson. Approximately 5 miles east of the airport, and during climb out, he noticed that engine oil pressure was low and the engine began to sputter and run rough. Major Coulter immediately turned back toward the airport and notified ATC. Engine oil pressure continued to rapidly decrease. Major Coulter ran the emergency procedures checklist and reduced airspeed to best glide while conserving as much altitude as possible. Upon arrival in the pattern, the engine continued to run rough and was not producing sufficient power to maintain altitude. Major Coulter flew a high pattern and successfully navigated the airplane back to the runway. While rolling out, the engine quit. He was able to roll the airplane onto a taxiway and get clear of the runway using remaining inertia. Through his singularly conspicuous aviator actions in quickly diagnosing the problem and decisive corrective action, Major Coulter was able to return to the airport and safely land the aircraft. The actions by Major Coulter resulted in a favorable outcome with no injury to himself and no damage to the aircraft. The facts in this case clearly demonstrate the superior airmanship displayed by Major Coulter under great pressure, and it's worthy of the Distinguished Aviator Award and reflect great credit upon himself and Civil Air Patrol. So congratulations to Bob. He did a great job getting that airplane back, and of course, I think most of you know that they took the engine off of it, and the oil filter was full of metal flecks. And interestingly enough, the oil had just been changed about 9 hours before that flight, and it was returned to service. So again, congratulations to Bob. It was a good outcome of what could have been a bad situation. And with that, I wish you sunny skies flying, safe flying, and may you find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. We chased that rainbow and we could never get there to see where the pot of gold was. All right, that's it for me. How about questions, comments, etc.? Well, having heard none.
Well, Rod, I'll just give a plug for myself. The next in session 3, I'm doing a aerial photography famine prep training. So if you're one of those folks who has a burning desire to be an aerial photographer, come on over and I'll share some tips and tricks and hopefully get you well on the way. So that's next session starting at 13:30.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, because as was reported there, our aerial photographers are down. So I'm sure that is mostly a function of just not getting them out to fly so they can renew their qualifications. Okay. Well, uh, let's see. Is it Colonel Von Holtz? Did you have anything you wanted to say or comments?
No, it's interesting stuff. I never did get a chance to fly in CAP when I was a kid or anything. I never knew about it, and wish I had known about it because it would help me out a lot. I went to Embry-Riddle, like one of your award recipients there down in Daytona, and had I known about it when I was a kid, I'd have definitely jumped on it and used it. Even while I was going to school in Florida, maybe just flown with a cap down there would have helped a lot. So it's tremendous opportunity for young folks, and I hope you can get the word out and recruit some more. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, we're certainly trying. I mean, it's been a very challenging environment, which everybody knows, due to COVID in the last year. So I'm really hoping that we can ramp back up this year. It looks like the statistics in West Virginia are looking better. So as I say, hopefully we'll be able to get more into regular training where we can get together and have SAR exercises and which is very helpful in helping to maintain proficiency and keeping more pilots on the roster.
Yeah, hit up the guidance counselors in the local high school and get the kids out there, show and tell, fly them into some place near the high schools and get them out there. It's a lot of. I know you got actual real world missions that are taking priority, but I wish, like I say, as a kid, I wish my guidance counselor had told me something about it. They had no clue though. It was back in the 80s though. So, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I had a similar experience that I started at 14 and soloed on my 16th birthday, got my license on my 17th. My primary flight instructor was a former CAP member down in Athens, Ohio, when he was in college at OU. Nobody told me anything about Wheeling having a squadron. That's who I belong to now. It would have probably helped me out well. I had a 20-year Air Force career too, and retired, and it would have been great I was already getting an early jump, but knowing more about CAP and aviation, I would have jumped at the chance if I'd have known about it.
Yeah, I'd have been all over it, at a young age like that. Yeah, it's tough. You got to find a way to get the word out. That's the key. That's the tough part too.
Yeah, we've done a pretty decent job in West Virginia of communicating. I know one thing in particular that we do is, Colonel Judy in particular does a lot of EAA Young Eagles flights. He plans those, and we almost always have a Civil Air Patrol airplane there at those. And just to spark interest, and actually sometimes we put them in the airplane as part of a pre-flight before they go out on the Young Eagles flight. So some of those kids are a little bit young, but to be a target audience for us. But generally it helps, over time.
Yeah, it's a lasting impression on the mind. I remember the first time I flew. I'll never forget it. So it always made me want to be a pilot, and here I am, 39 years in the military and still flying for an airline. So, still liking it. So.
Good. Well, if you get up here to West Virginia, we'll be happy to fly you. in the powered airplane, or if you want to come over to one of our glider weekends, we'll get you riding a glider too.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing the glider thing. I've never done that before, so that'd be fun. Yeah, I was thinking about driving up tomorrow, actually, somewhere in West Virginia. I'm not sure where. I was going to take my dogs up with me and go romp around up there. So
Take
Well,
a
let's
POV with you.
what's that? I couldn't hear you. You broke up there.
Take a personal locator beacon with you, just in case.
Yeah, definitely need that.
yeah,
Great.
and watch out for the bears.
Oh yeah, yeah. My boy's about as big as a bear, but I still wouldn't let him fight one. So,
Well, who's faster?
Good. I'm
well,
sorry.
I got one that's got two legs that have torn Achilles, and he's got plates and screws in one, and in sad shape. He can't run too fast right now, so I'm sure the bear could track him down. But anyway, that's great. I'll be looking forward to the next session then.
Okay, very good. Well, with that, everybody have a good afternoon and tune in to the next session that's available.
All right.
Thank you, Rod. Appreciate you preparing for this.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm going to stop the recording.